Alright, welcome everybody. Welcome to SA Boxing Talk again. Obviously the times are very, very tough. It's the COVID-19 virus which has us in lockdown. For me, it's day one of the lockdown, so I've decided to be proactive and sort of, instead of getting the interviews, which I unfortunately can't get, I have some other content which I'm going to be putting up, which involves more than just me on the show, but obviously through the internets and so forth, so no confusion with that. But otherwise, besides the point is I have to be innovative in these times, and of course I've compiled a list from from the lowest weight division to the highest weight division in South Africa, so, and including the up and coming guys. And of course, sometimes we're going to come to a situation where there is a tie in the weight divisions, and sometimes we're going to get to a point where there's just an ultimate number one. And all the up and coming boxers, there's no ties or anything like that. There's just one up and coming boxer. So without further ado, let's get straight into the list, and I would appreciate if you could watch throughout the whole video, just in support of our South African boxers. At number one, in the minimum weight division, that's what it's called. I mean, we call it sometimes in South Africa strawweight division, but it's a minimum weight division. Let's go according to world standards and keep with the times. Two guys that come up. Nkosi Joy, the current IBO world minimum weight champion, and Simpiwe Konko. Now, I'm going to quickly explain why I have two people there. One, we have a world champion in the form of Nkosi Joy, who's had a resurgence in his career and brought back sort of the good days in his career. And then you got Simpiwe Konko, who vacated his IBO in order to go fight for the WBC and go for big time. So, and in saying that, all the guys that Joy had fought en route to his IBO, and including the defense of his IBO, Simpiwe Konko would have beaten as well. So that's why I have them together at number one. And the best up-and-coming boxer on that list, and I've looked through a few of the names. There are a few good names, guys with a fight 4 or 5 fights that are scratching the barrel. But I've gone for Jabulani. I feel like he's been campaigning for a little bit longer, and of course he still has that impressive draw over DJ Kriel at Emperor's Palace. So I thought that was very that bumps him up the list in terms of names, and of course he's cleaned up in the Eastern Cape for who he's fought. So that's why I've gone for Jabulani as the best up-and-coming minimum weight in South Africa. At light flyweight, I've got two names again. I have got Heki Butler and I've got DJ Kriel, and the reason I've gone for two names is because Heki Butler is, of course, I mean, he can come back and win a world title at any stage. He's probably one of the most accomplished professional boxers in the South African era. And then you've got DJ Kriel, who of course is impressive in his own right, winning an IBF world title recently in the minimum weight division. He's now chosen to vacate and step up into the light flyweight division, which of course leads him on the path to another world title shot, which unfortunately has been postponed due to this COVID-19 virus. But of course, when the disease subsides, he'll get his opportunity to fight for that world title. The best up-and-comer, and of course I get really excited about up-and-coming boxers because they are the next generation, and of course we get to see them sort of developing along the stages, and that his name is Sibe Nonshinga. I think a lot of people would have identified him quite easily as the best up-and-coming light flyweight. He's also rated really highly in the IBF, which puts him on a collision course with DJ Kriel. If that eventuality of DJ winning the world title and Sibe being so highly rated, could we be seeing a local IBF world title fight? In the flyweight division, undisputed, is the best fighter in the country. Maruti Mtsalane is the current IBF flyweight champion of the world and should get his opportunities to unify. I hope so. Man really deserves it. Man deserves all the credit he's been getting. So yeah, guys, Maruti Mtsalane, best flyweight, undisputed. Nothing more really to say apart from the fact that we hope that he gets fights after this virus coming up. The best up-and-coming flyweight for me, Leander Ntwanyabi. He, of course, is another man on a destruction path. He knocks guys out. He's signed by MCK Africa, MCK Global, and he is on the rise, and obviously signed to Rumble Africa Promotions. We look forward to seeing him sort of developing and producing the sort of performances we've seen of late. Obviously, when he steps up in level, we're going to see the real guy. But as of now, all things are going well. At light flyweight, we have two names, and of course, we cannot forget that the one name is right up there with the other name. And obviously, the first guy I'm going to mention is Yanga Sakibo. I think that Sakibo is the first name that comes to everyone's minds when it comes to that division. And then we cannot forget about Ati Dumazweni as well, because Dumazweni unfortunately came up against an Argentinian that was world rated, former Olympian. He had the WBC silver title that got taken from him by the Argentinian via the TKO route in the 11th round. What a competitive fight that was. And of course, Now that he doesn't have the belt, a lot of people are going to forget about him, but let's not forget about him just yet. Let's say these are the two best in that weight division coming up currently. And, of course, Ricardo Malajika is the up-and-coming guy. 6-0, flashy, has everything you want to see in a boxer. I think Ricardo Malajika is going to be one of those guys that's going to be going up through the weight divisions as well. But for now, he's sat in the super flyweight division, and we look forward to his career. He's currently being promoted by Golden Gloves Promotions, hopefully to a successful future endeavors for him. In the bantamweight division, you can't forget this. This is the second time we're having undisputed number ones on this list, and that is Zolani Lastborn Tete. You can't forget the name. We know his career. We know what he can do. He's campaigning still in England. And, of course, we still want to see what this guy has in his career up until this point. The up-and-coming guy on the list, of course, Ronald Malindi. I don't think you can forget King Malindi. He recently got through the challenge of Liwandile Sechata. And Sechata, obviously a veteran of the game, former RBO world champion. And Ronald Malindi, I mean, he got through the fight. Not the most pleasing fights on the eyes, but Malindi managed to get through the challenge. And, of course, he remains undefeated, a great thing for the Rumble Africa promotions. At Super Bantamweight, I'm going to try to get through this list a little bit faster. I realize that I am taking a bit of time. At Super Bantamweight, we have Ledumo Lamati. Obviously, Ledumo Lamati is undisputed number one at the top. I don't think you can argue across the board. The RBF Intercontinental Champion, and he's in a defendant multiple times. I'm guessing he's also signed to Rumble Africa promotions. He's managed by El Siesta, who's based in England. So his career looks like it's going to be a rapid path towards an IBF world title. And of course, the up-and-coming boxer JJ Sonjika, which is right on his heels. And actually, to be fair, I think that fight would be really good. Dumba Lomati versus JJ Sonjika, in order for JJ to sort of step through the ranks and prove that he is number one. I think that it's essential for him to get that opportunity. At featherweight, undisputed Lorato Glamini lights out, the man from Velkom in the Free States, the man that just is a phenomenal upcoming boxer, the current WBC silver champion, and he's also signed to Rumble Africa promotions. So as you can see, a lot of the lower weight divisions, Rumble Africa promotions are dominating. And of course, Lights Out has had an esteemed career, obviously winning 4 titles along the way, and obviously being the first South African to grab a title in Saudi Arabia. So that's a massive achievement for him. And the best up-and-coming guy, I actually lied earlier in the piece. I said there was no ties in the up-and-coming guys, but I've got 2 guys. Timbani Imbangata and Abdulaziz Kunert. I feel like both of these guys, and obviously they scheduled to fight each other, right, to determine who the best up-and-coming featherweight in the country is. And I feel like that fight is going to be so big. And so big for Cape Town as well. Cape Town needs this fight. And I think that these two are really going to put on a show. And I hope the winner of this can get legitimate opportunities out there. Because I feel like, what a fight. Cape Town, you guys do not miss this fight. It's huge. In the super featherweight division, undisputed as well, is Azinga Fuzile. Unfortunately losing out to Rakimov. But of course, Azinga Fuzile making an A-grade fighter like Rakimov look like a C-grade fighter in a fight up until the point where he's caught. People will have their say on it, but I still think Azinga Fuzile is world rate. And the up-and-coming guy, Kanyile Bulana. I think Bulana is one of the guys that's flying under the radar constantly. And, you know, because he's kind of I wouldn't say in the shadow of Azinga Fuzile, but he came up and is developing around the same time as Fuzile, but without getting the same plaudits as Fuzile. So I think he is the best up-and-coming talent to keep your eyes out for in the super featherweight division. At the lightweight division, now, I've got my opinion on this. I think Nomevo Ndongeni is the number 1 lightweight in the country as things stand, and I think he's been for a while. I think he's dominated for a very long time. He, of course, is with the Smith stable, Sean Smith, that is. And another guy on that list is Chipiwe Munyai, which is another fight that us South Africans have been begging for, but I don't think we're going to see it anytime soon. I think that Ndongeni has overseas endeavors, and maybe Munyai has a couple of other big fights, maybe potentially Ayanda and Corsi down the line. Let's see what happens with Chipiwe Munyai. Hopefully he gets the big fights, because Chipiwe, in Chipiwe's day, a phenomenal fighter. And the best up-and-coming fighter, I actually named him in that list, is Ayanda and Corsi, the Greyhound, the Malinga stable. A very underrated boxing stable is the Malinga stable, and Ayanda and Corsi form as a part of that. A relentless work rate, Ayanda and Corsi. You know, you gotta give the man a lot of respect when you come up against him. I think he is a guy that never stops, and I think he will be a challenge for either Ndongeni or Munyai. I think that's another guy that they need to sort of watch on the up and coming. In the super lightweight division, I don't think we can debate this. Jabulani McKenzie, he was number 2 on my prospects list coming up, and top 5 prospects list that I did announce. Jabulani McKenzie, phenomenally talented. It's actually a blessing to watch him box because he brings boxing and makes it artful. He makes it entertaining. His fight against Marius Matamba was a huge step, because a lot of people would have had the debate who is the best super lightweight in the country between the two of those, and they both stood there and they put on a show for the fans, and I think that was a very artistic fight, and it showed me that Jabulani has the intelligence, and so does Marius Matamba, to both make it a top level. But from a South African point of view, Jabulani obviously between the two of them on the list, getting the win and doing what he had to do to get the majority decision that day, shows me that he's ready for that next level. And of course, the up-and-coming guy, because Jabulani McKenzie not too long ago would have been an up-and-coming guy, is Chumani Tunzi. And I think that this guy as well, 6-0 in the Eastern Cape, very flies under the radar. Not much mention of him. I'm based in Gauteng, and you don't hear much in terms of development on the boxers front. You don't see him on television or anything like that. But we know that he's got credible wins on his record. The research is done. The man is on the up-and-coming spree. So again, look out for these boxers, because these are the guys that deserve television time. And we're talking about a guy 6-0, credible opponents that he's got on his resume, not getting the sort of coverage that he deserves. Guys, promoters out there, whoever it is, I actually don't even know who his promoter is. Get him on TV, please. And welterweight division, Chris van Heerden and Tulani Mbenge, I call it even. You know, Tools obviously was on a rampage up until the point that he went to Germany and unfortunately fell short with Formella. But of course, you can't write off the actual quality of the man. I think that when talking about quality boxers, you've got both Van Heerden and Tools, and we always want to see this fight between Van Heerden and Tools. It just never comes to fruition because of just certain environments, the money. There's just so many things. Politics is what they would say, involved in making a fight of that magnitude. So that's probably one of the fights we'll never see unless we see it at the end of both of their careers, which would be a sad thing for South African spectators, is that's the fight we've been really calling out for in the welterweight division. But again, you can't be mad because of, obviously, there are reasons why the fight hasn't been made. And either way, if they keep both fighting top contenders, I'll be happy either way as a South African. Tristan Truter, the up-and-coming welterweight. I know that he is campaigning at super welterweight, but I do believe that his best weight division is at welterweight. The guy does have a future there. Of course, some of his most devastating knockouts, although being on the up-and-coming circuit, have been in the welterweight division. I feel he's lighter on his feet, and his height and reach advantage in the welterweight division gives him that edge. Good strength and conditioning programs, everything like that. I believe this guy could be a future welterweight champion in the welterweight division for now, depending on his body growth. Maybe in the future becomes a super welterweight. As he said, height and reach does play a big part in sort of the body development of a boxer. But I think for now, as we're talking, as he is 20, I think, welterweight is the preferable weight division for him to campaign it, and I think that should be the part that his promoter and so forth take with his career for now. Super welterweight division, Boyd Allen is the name that you can't dispute in the country. Undefeated, never lost to any of the up-and-coming local guys in that weight division. I think that Boyd himself, coming up from MMA, would be surprised to have done this well so far. I don't know if he'd be surprised to have done this well, but I think a lot of the boxing spectators rather would be surprised as to how well Boyd has actually gone through the ranks, developed, and still maintained being undefeated along the way. The only draw on his record, because he's 5 wins, no losses, and a draw, was to Zurovitsky, the guy that came from Europe. So, I mean, if you're looking at him on a 3-week notice fight against an absolute hammer like Zurovitsky, it's most likely that you're not going to have it in you to complete it. So that was what happened that day. I'm assuming because 3-week training camp after a big war against Brandon Taser is something else. Anyway, the up-and-coming super welterweight is Simon Glagla. I feel like Simon, the undefeated South African champion, is on the up-and-coming. He's going to get his opportunities, I feel. Again, non-television, non-televised events for a guy like him is absolutely criminal. We need to see this guy on TV. He's doing well. Guys, we need to put these boxes as much. There's too many non-televised. The streaming's coming. I know the streaming's coming, and guys are working hard on the streaming, but we cannot afford not to see these sort of guys because no one really knows about who the boxers are. Hello. Let's get them on TV. Middleweight, guy that stepped up to middleweight recently and knocked out Walter Glamini, is Nkululeko the Bulldog Mhlongo. and he's been the boss for a while. He was the boss of the super welterweight division, and of course he would have been the boss on the list if he had still been in that weight division, but he is now the boss of the middleweight division. Obviously, a lot of respect for that man. His career as well. He's been robbed on the road. When I mean robbed, the referral is that he's lost in a person's home country, and he had probably won that fight, but the decision didn't get given his way. So yeah, his record probably isn't a reflective of how good he is. But yeah, he's the boss of the middleweight division, and the upcoming guy, which I haven't given up on, is Ricky Shabalala. I think that Ricky is still the most talented boxer coming up in the middleweight division. Unfortunately, didn't win his last fight. John Bopape got the knockout finish, but Ricky Shabalala, of course, is still got that fundamental talent. He's in a good gym in the Duran stable, and I believe that when he comes back, he's going to make an announcement. Super middleweight division, you can't argue beyond Raina Liebenberg. The man has campaigned all around the world. He has the experience. He has the name. He has the carry in South Africa, and he has the ability to still be called the number one super middleweight in South Africa. He's the boss, and to be the boss, you got to beat the boss. So no one yet in South Africa in the super middleweight division has really given Raina any sort of challenge. There are up-and-coming guys like Rowan Campbell, who is the up-and-comer on my list. Rowan Campbell versus Raina Liebenberg would be an absolutely fantastic fight. Raina is coming on towards the end, and he'll admit it himself. That's probably not in the sort of peak of his career, and so forth, which makes it an even more interesting fight when it comes to him versus Rowan Campbell. I think that fight now becomes a highly competitive fight, and I know Raina in his prediction will give a prediction for a knockout. I know that he believes that, and I think Rowan Campbell believes that he can also knock out Raina Liebenberg. I think that makes for an interesting fight. I think that this fight needs to happen this year. I know Raina Liebenberg has plans on retiring, but fans of South Africa, let's get together and say that this fight needs to happen. Well, it doesn't really matter what the fans think. The promoter's got to do the job, and let's hope it gets made by the end of this year. Light heavyweight division, Nick Radley is still number one in the weight division. He's the current South African champion. He lost to Rowan Campbell actually at a catch weight, where they met in the middle, the two South African champions at the time. They met there, and they obviously, Radley had fallen short for whatever reason it may be in his career. Rowan came out tops, and Rowan remained undefeated. 1-0 had to go, and Rowan Campbell kept his O. Radley, unfortunately for him, lost his O. But of course, that still doesn't leave him, as the competition in the light heavyweight division is not so stiff. It leaves him still at number one in the light heavyweight division, and he obviously keeps his SA title as well. And the up-and-coming guy, Luvuyo Sizani, 4-0. Obviously, you can't be 4-0 and be the number one in the division, according to me. But of course, he is the natural choice for the successor to Nick Radley when Radley decides to hang up his gloves. I think Sizani is obviously talented. He's been touted as one of the futures in the light heavyweight division, and I hope that he fulfills his destiny, because we need as many big guys, I'm saying, as possible. South Africa, for years and years and years, have dominated the smaller weight divisions. Come, guys, let's get some of the bigger guys involved, some of the guys that are going to put us on the map as well. Let's get these guys out there. We've had our fun we've had our success amongst the smaller guys. Let's have our success amongst the bigger guys as well. Cruiserweight, again, hard to split Tabiso Mchunu and Kevin Lerena. Between the two of them, I think a natural choice for many might be Kevin Lerena, based on the fact that he is the RBO world champion, and he's been an RBO world champion for a while. And Tabiso Mchunu, currently the WBC silver champion, which also puts him up there. I believe it's similar levels, and obviously the guys, if they had to fight each other, would be a highly competitive fight as well. I don't think it's one-way traffic for either. I believe that they are good friends and good sparring partners and everything like that. So I think either of them would obviously believe they would win said fights against each other. But I think that ultimately, at the end of the day, a lot of respect will be shown in a fight like that, of course. And both guys are actually on the up. So either way, I have both guys being the number one South Africans in the cruiserweight division, and of course Akani Puzi being the number one upcoming boxer, undisputed again. What more can you say about Akani Puzi? He's taking care of business. He's developing at the right pace. Alan Tawil is pushing him in the right direction. A shot got made maybe to take him on against Yuri Kalenga. Of course, Kalenga isn't the same Kalenga he was in the last couple of years, and I think that an interesting fight would be him against Akani Puzi. Very valuable learning rounds could be had there for Akani Puzi. It's not going to be a blowout either, I can tell you that, because Akani is still developing. He's only 11 fights in, remember that. So we could be seeing a close fight, but we could be seeing a great learning fight for Akani Puzi. And I still think, and my bet is that Akani Puzi will win that fight. That's just how it is, according to me. So, I mean, you can have your say on that. I don't think Kalinga is the same Kalinga he was all those years ago, but I still think he can provide value in terms of rounds for a guy like Akani, who, if he wins that fight, starts looking at the international boxing scene. Well, that is his introduction to the international boxing scene, saying, hi, I've arrived. In the heavyweight boxing scene, of course, Rowan Visser would have been the natural choice, but of course, with the suspension, unfortunately, will miss out on the list. Until that's cleared up, obviously, if it is cleared up, then the reintroduction to him being on the list is an absolute natural position for him, being the SA champion, and sort of, the results that he's garnered against some of the other guys that are in the division, rather. Sorry. So number one, I'm going to go between two guys again, Tian Fick and Johnny Muller, and a lot of people would be surprised, I think, that Johnny Muller's on the list, but he is campaigning at heavyweight currently. Obviously, we all know that Johnny will be in the cruiserweight division, hopefully in the future. We all hope just to be a bit more competitive in terms of where he's going on the world stage. In South Africa, you can still get away with perhaps being at heavyweight, and that puts him and Tian Fick as the number one and one in the heavyweight division. And then the upcoming boxer Josh Pretorius, who I believe will be getting a shot if he gets through Luke Sutherland. I don't know if that fight's still on because of this COVID-19 virus, but if he does get his shot, he's the natural number one between him and Tian Fick to fight for the SA title. Another great fight. Two guys from the coast, one from the Western Cape, one from KwaZulu-Natal. I think it makes for a good coastal war. Which province is going to be fighted in is also debatable. I don't think either guy really lays claim to being favourable in terms of bringing the fight to their province. So why not do it up here in Johannesburg, so SA Boxing Talk can have first-hand coverage to that. Now, and all jokes aside, we have a deep in Cape Town as well, so if it goes to Cape Town, that's not too much of a problem. Guys, thank you for listening to the list. As always, I appreciate it. If you made it this far to the end of the video, I really like to say a big thank you, because you're really, really a big support to this channel, and I appreciate each and every one of you for spending the time, obviously watching the video and having your say. I hope that you go ahead and like the video. It really helps the YouTube algorithm as well to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done yet. I know a lot of people do. Looking at the analytics, 88% of the people that watch my videos aren't subscribed to the channel, so I would appreciate it if you could go ahead, make an account and subscribe to the channel so that you can get up-to-date updates with every single video that I release on the channel, or another one of the guys on the channel produces. And of course, please go ahead and comment. It's always a great debate when you have names and so forth that you want to mention in the comments. Obviously, this is a list format, so obviously there's going to be a lot of debates with this, but of course I'm just saying what I've got to say. This is my opinion, guys. It's not an actual fact who is the best and who isn't the best. This is just purely what I think, and of course people can argue in all different ways who the best is. Of course, I didn't include South Africans in South Africa in this list, and I think there are a lot of good names out there that could have made the list and most definitely would have made the list, but of course I wanted to focus primarily on South Africa at this point. I think there'll be a whole lot of more things I'm going to be talking about during the COVID-19 virus era, this lockdown era, and so forth. But let's just get this video underway. Thank you for your support, and I will see you next time. Cheers.